Hello. Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth. My name's Dr. Leslie Phillips, and I'm here with Corey.
That's me.
We are broadcasting on 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation. And we're also live streaming from our Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group and from my YouTube channel. And our show is normally on every Tuesday night from 7 to 8 Pacific time. So apologies to anyone who watches the live stream. We couldn't do a show last Tuesday because of an internet outage. So we're doing catch up here. And we are actually continuing our series that we've been doing. So this year, if you're a regular listener, you'll know we've been doing a series on intuition or psychic abilities and the chakra system, and what is the relationship between different forms of intuition and the chakras. And if you don't know what chakras are, they are energy centers that are conduits for spiritual information. And I've chosen this theme because I had a book come out this year, which is called Intuition and Chakras, and it's published by Llewellyn. And in this book, we talk about 22 different psychic abilities. And so we've been working our way through each of those 22 psychic abilities on the show. And we've already been through the psychic abilities channeled through the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth chakras. And so if you have missed those shows and you want to go back over them and fill in the gaps, then you can go to the podcast feed on drlesliephillips.com/category/podcast, or you can also find us on any of the major podcasting platforms, including iTunes.
Oh boy.
So I'm excited. It looks like we've got a good turnout
Yeah, it's
in our
marvelous.
live chat room. So that's really great.
Get a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. So this week is it's the first week that we're talking about the sixth chakra. And actually I didn't realize, I thought there was only going to be 2 weeks on the sixth chakra, but actually there's going to be 3, because today we'll talk about clairvoyance. Next week we'll talk about abstract intuition, and the week after we're going to talk about precognition, which is actually an ability that where you're using both your 6th and 7th chakra, but that bridges us then moving into talking about the crown chakra.
Oh, that's one more than you have on your schedule.
No, it's on my schedule. Yeah, it is on my schedule. So, well, without further ado, let's talk about the 6th chakra. And first of all, the 6th chakra it's the one that people commonly think of, I think, when they are thinking about psychic abilities, because it's otherwise known as the third eye, and it is located, the 6th chakra is located in the center of your forehead. It actually flows from front to back, like a funnel shape, a spinning funnel from front to back through the forehead. And within that energy center, or that energy center is passing through other apparatus that relate to the ability to see spiritual phenomena. So the 6th chakra governs basically being able to see clearly. That includes on a physical level, things relating to your eyesight, but on a spiritual level, then it means being able to see as spirit. So the word clairvoyance means clear seeing, and it is the ability to see spiritual phenomena. But not only that, it is the ability to perceive your reality from a neutral non-judgmental perspective. It gives you a way of looking out at the world from the perspective of spirit, which is the perspective of acceptance and non-judgment. So it's one of the most important steps in your spiritual growth and in the development of your psychic abilities to develop your sixth chakra and to learn about your clairvoyance, because of the neutrality that is bestowed through that level of mastery of working with your sixth chakra. So, because just imagine if what you're wanting to do is to be able to do readings for other people, you don't want to be passing that information through a filter of judgment. You want to be able to look at that person from a very neutral perspective and give them information that helps them to guide them through whatever it is that they're going through. Same thing about looking at yourself. You want to be able to look at yourself through a neutral perspective as well. And it's a really, really common thing, isn't it, for all of us to judge ourselves. We judge ourselves so fiercely and strongly, and we invalidate ourselves all the time. And, I always say, and I'm probably repeating myself 1,000 times, that psychic development is a twofold path. One path is about developing and experiencing your abilities. The other part is all about you healing yourself.
And it's part 3 as well.
What is?
Having fun.
Having fun. Thank you, Corey. That's a really important part, isn't it? Yes. And what I was going to say about the healing part is, it's much easier to heal yourself if you're able to look at your issues from a neutral perspective, or even from an amused perspective, to follow through on what Corey said. So clairvoyance and the sixth chakra. And I usually like to read a passage from my book, and so I might do that, although I haven't chosen a passage yet. So I'm just going to take a quick look at what's in here. Well, let's actually, before I do that, let's talk a little bit more about what your clairvoyance allows you to see. Because there are many things. Predominantly, though, it's allowing you to see energy, and everything is energy. But it's allowing you to see the subtle energy fields that surround people, that surround animals, plants, and everything. Okay, so I'm talking here about the auric field, the human energy field. Being able to tap into your clairvoyance through the use of your sixth chakra allows you to see energy and energy fields surrounding objects, animals, plants, people, and anything else that you might care to imagine. And that's an amazing thing, because when we talk about the human energy field, it's like your fingerprint. It's unique to you. And everything about you is contained within that energy field. And so through your clairvoyance and through being able to see the auric field, now you can really get to know yourself and other people on a very, very deep, deep level. And how do you see the auric field using your clairvoyance? What's that experience like? What does it look like? It allows you to see vibration, usually in the form of colors, so that you start to be able to see the colors within the human energy field and the energy field of other things. Again, which is an amazing experience, because we're all wearing our coat of many colors. I think that tale in the Bible is alluding to the human aura, actually. So we have a coat of many colors, and that is like our unique fingerprint, except it's changing all the time. And by tuning into that, we can understand ourselves, what's going on within us, and what growth on a spiritual level are we going through? And the same thing for other people. So developing your clairvoyance allows you to see energy and energy fields. It also allows you to see other spiritual phenomena. So, and some examples of other spiritual phenomena might include your guides. Everybody really wants to be able to communicate with their guides. And one way of communicating with your guides is if you can see your guides, then they can communicate with you through the language of spirit. And the language of spirit is a more, on the one hand, simpler, and the other hand, more complex language. So, for example, we may communicate through color and color vibrations, and we may communicate through symbols and mental image pictures. And so, if you can see your spirit guides through your clairvoyance, then you can communicate with them because they can show you symbols. And the symbols are packages of electromagnetic energy that contain information that you can unpackage and realize within your human consciousness. They may also show you mental image pictures or even little videos playing. And in fact, we communicate with each other all the time through mental image pictures. And we store our life experiences in the form of mental image pictures as well. So with your clairvoyance, you can see those mental image pictures. So for example, if you were doing a reading on somebody else using your clairvoyance, you might see their auric field and the colors of their auric field. You might see symbols within their auric field that relate to that person. And you might see mental image pictures that could be memories of things that have happened to them or things that relate to their beliefs and so on, or even little videos. So it's very exciting to be able to develop your sixth chakra. It's very exciting to be able to use your clairvoyance. But above all of that, I would just say the neutrality of the sixth chakra is the most important thing to be able to own within yourself, because that allows you to deal with life. You know, we're always talking about grounding on the show and how grounding is a tool to help you deal with the challenges of living in a polarized world. A second thing to add to that is mastery of your sixth chakra, mastery of your clairvoyance, mastery of your third eye also gives you tremendous power to be above the ups and downs of life. So you can now start to operate consciously as spirit within the human form. And the non-judgmentalism of being able to use your sixth chakra really, really helps you with that. Because, I mean, just think about this. I'm sure all of you know that there are certain things that pull you out of alignment. A lot of us, we worry, don't we? We worry about things. We have this mental chatter that just won't stop, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. And it keeps us from who we truly are. That's part of the body's experience. That's part of the ego's experience. That's your mind, and you're not your mind. Whereas if you can seat your consciousness within your sixth chakra, you can be apart from the mental chatter, which is one of the struggles of the human condition. And you can be above the emotions, which is also one of the struggles of the human condition. So the sixth chakra is very, very powerful. And so let us take a look at something maybe that I wrote in my book. And I usually like to read, every chapter's got the the chakra that we're talking about, and then each of the psychic abilities that are channeled through that chakra. And there's always a section in each of those psychic abilities, which is like how to discover your ability, or how to realize if this is something that you've already been experiencing. And one thing I would say about clairvoyance is it is something that we all have. We're all spirit, right? We are all spirit. I mean, maybe in the lifetime we're living, it's not meant to be a focus for us, but it's not that there are people that have this and people that don't. We all do. So here we go. Clairvoyance can be difficult for people to validate because they doubt it and they think it's just their imagination. Yeah, that happens a lot in my classes, that people get stuck in doubt, and the doubt always comes from the intellect. And so remember that mastering your clairvoyance and your sixth chakra enables you to overcome that doubt, because it puts you in the driver's seat of your reality, where you can become the neutral observer of your reality. The other thing that happens is they expect to be crystal clear, and so if the images are not as clear as they are with their eyesight, then they don't believe they're doing it right. So that's another thing, isn't it, in psychic development or anything you're trying to learn? Am I doing it right? A lot of doubt about, am I doing it right? And a lot of expectations about what this is supposed to be like. And really what that does is it stops you from allowing your own experience that you're having in the moment. And here's the thing.
That holds true with the physical reality too. I mean, when you're thinking about something, it's not always as clear as you want it to see. I mean, I don't think we all see in perfect images when we're looking at something. You know, try thinking of somebody from your past. I mean, it blurs up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's actually a good example here.
You
So
would think if you had it like my parents have passed, and sometimes I try to picture them and I only can bring up one or two clear pictures of them. The rest are just muffled. And
yeah.
speaking of which, I think we should take a short break and then you can
Okay.
answer
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, sure. So listeners, you're tuning into Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey, and we're taking a break. Welcome back. Listeners, you are tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and with Corey.
Hello again.
And we are in the midst of our epic series on intuition and chakras.
It's an interesting term for an epic.
22 episodes on this subject, because
Yeah.
there are 22 psychic abilities, which are all written about in my Intuition and Chakras book that came out this year.
And Daniela says, very interesting, 22 abilities. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Wow. I know. And there's a lot of information out there in the world, on the internet, different people teaching different things. And a lot of it's kind of muddled up. I'll be honest with you. A lot of it's muddled up. People blur, um, mix up one thing and another, And so it is important to be discerning about the information that you're listening to. And one of the best ways to be discerning is if you've got some level of use of your sixth chakra, then you can see what's good information and what isn't. So before the break, we were talking about validating your clairvoyance and some of the things that can get in the way of that. And one of the things that I had mentioned was expectations, and especially expecting it to look crystal clear. And it doesn't always look that way. And Corey had drawn the analogy to when you're summoning up a memory, a picture memory. It's not always as clear, is it, as when the thing actually happened. And your clairvoyance is a bit like that. And it can be crystal clear, but the reason it usually isn't is because when we're in a human body, we've got so much of our energy focused on the physical world. So, and going through our intellect, our brain, right, which is the main thing in the body, is your brain. The highest attribute of the physical body is the brain. We've got so much energy invested in that kind of overpowers, dilutes, and overcomes a lot of the psychic abilities as they're coming through. And so we have to learn to bypass that, and we have to learn to trust and validate, even if it is a shadowy image or something that's not as bright and clear as we would like. A demonstration of this that's, I think, within the purview of many people's experiences is when you're just dropping off to sleep, or when you're just waking up in the morning. Oftentimes you might have a clear vision of something that is super clear. And why is that possible at that time of day? It's because your intellect isn't engaged, because you've not yet launched yourself completely into the physical world and being bombarded by all of the physical data that comes in. And so just, if you've had that experience, let that be a validation of your clairvoyance, and also a validation of who we are right now in these human bodies, in this very physical world. So I'm going to go on and continue to look at some of the things that I've written about here. So it also says we can use clairvoyance to recall past events, people, and objects as images. We might call this memory. Though not everybody recalls memories as images. We can use it to picture future plans in our minds. You know, when we want to manifest something, we can envision what this thing we want to manifest looks like. We're using our clairvoyance to observe that visual image that we are creating. We sometimes call that visualization, but it's no different to your clairvoyance. It's the same. We are, let's see. Yeah, so I say in my book it's the same, and we're projecting a thought form onto a visual image screen in both cases. Here's another example. If you picture somebody that you're having a phone conversation with in your mind's eye as you're talking to them, well, how are you seeing that? That's your clairvoyance. If you imagine the characters in a book when you read a book, if you see that pictorially, that's your clairvoyance. You call it imagination, but it's the same. What is imagination? Imagination is an image that you summon, you know, from within your psyche. What is clairvoyance? It's the same thing. It's a mental image that you are, you know, a way that you are choosing to look at energy. Because your imagination, we say it's a figment of your imagination, as though it doesn't exist. It does exist. It exists as a thought form. You've created a thought form from energy, and you are observing that with your clairvoyance. So any thought or image you put out, it exists, even if it's not tangibly a physical object. It still exists. It's still energy that's been created and put into a format. Okay, let's see what else. Well, here's just some very, very simple things. You know, we have commonly used phrases in our language, don't we? I'm feeling blue today. I'm seeing red. And, you know, I'm green with envy. And isn't it funny that we use colors to describe those moods and those experiences? And perhaps it has something to do with our clairvoyance, because whenever you're feeling a certain way, then there's an energy vibration to the way that you're feeling. You're running a particular energy through your system. And a clairvoyant might see depression as, I don't know, a grayish blue. A clairvoyant might see anger as red, for example.
Even more interesting than that, when you, well, not more interesting than that, but to add to that, we paint our rooms in our offices and in our homes specific colors to do just that, to bring on certain emotion and certain feeling. So it takes it even further than just, that the feeling pushes the color actually pushes the feeling as well.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? I know what I was going to say. So if you're somebody who tends to, resonate a lot, colors make you feel different ways. You use that kind of language. I'm seeing red right now. I'm green with envy. Then those are all signs that you've got a kind of visual thing going on. Now, of course, those are simple things that we can point to. In the book, we have a much more in-depth look at all of this, and it teach you in the book how to take charge of your sixth chakra, how to activate your sixth chakra, so that you can see as spirit. And the technique for that is called centering. There is actually a free meditation on my website that includes centering, although it's taken from a more corporate workshop. So it's not really talking about clairvoyance. It's the same technique. This is that you seat your consciousness in the very center of your head, in your pineal gland. That's an ancient secret. That's the location of the third eye. That's where it's the throne of consciousness within the physical body. It's where you can sit and be the driver of your life. If your body is your vehicle and you're going on this journey called your life, if you sit in the center of your head, then you're driving it consciously as spirit. If you don't sit in the center of your head, well, then that's when things are just happening willy-nilly because you're not taking charge of your reality. So seating the consciousness in the center of the head activates the pineal gland and allows you to begin to see as spirit through your sixth chakra. So this is what we do when I'm teaching people to develop their clairvoyance. This is what we practice. And as we practice, then, of course, when somebody is new to this, their fears, their blocks, their challenges come up to be dealt with. And so part of the whole recipe is to also use spiritual and energy techniques to clear the blocks so that people don't get stuck. Because it's one thing to know, okay, well, that's all I need to do. I just sit in the center of my head, and then, because usually what will happen is, well, why aren't I seeing? Or am I doing it right? Or, all I see is black. Well, why are you seeing black? And there are various reasons for that, for example. And so, yeah, now let me see. I lost my page on my book because I put the book down while I was talking. But that passage on discovering your clairvoyance, let's see if there's probably a few other points in there that I could talk about. And I will.
We also do have a couple of questions if you're up for them. Yeah.
Sure, let's do that. I'll put the book down and won't lose my page.
Okay. And Nate says he's waiting for his book, by the way. He ordered it. He's just waiting for it to be delivered. He's all anxious. And I have a question from Sharon. Sharon says, is imagination, clairvoyance the same as intuition?
So that's a good question. And there are many words bandied about. There's intuition, isn't there? And then there's psychic. There's like many different words for intuition and psychic. In fact, I think I do talk about that in my book, because each one has a slightly different nuance to it. Maybe if you're a psychic, we're going to judge you and say you're weird or you're doing the work of the devil. Whereas intuition, that's a bit more acceptable. If you're a businessman, you can have intuition. If you're an ordinary person, you can have intuition without being too weird. So is imagination and did she say, is imagination and clairvoyance the same as intuition? Clairvoyance is a form of intuition. Clairvoyance is a psychic ability. Clairvoyance is a psychic ability you can use to do things like psychic readings or mediumship. See, people often say I'm a psychic and I'm a medium, and they use that interchangeably. Well, you can be a medium, can be using any different psychic ability, right? Not just clairvoyance. So is intuition and imagination the same? As spirit, we communicate through energy, we communicate through mental image pictures, we communicate through projections of consciousness. So a dream image is a projection of consciousness. Your imagination is a projection of consciousness. And so you can observe and read and see that projection of consciousness using your clairvoyance. So let me see if I can think of an analogy to explain this. This is probably a silly analogy, but let's say you are making a clay pot, right? You've made this clay pot, and you see the clay pot with your sight, right? The clay pot and the sight are not the same thing. So when you conjure up something in your imagination, let's say you imagine a clay pot, and you see the clay pot with your mind's eye, you're seeing the clay pot with your clairvoyance. So you made the clay pot using your imagination, which is actually how we manifest. How do we manifest? We manifest through projections of consciousness. And again, I'll just follow that silly analogy. Let's say you want a clay pot. So you visualize, oh, I really want, I've got an example that I just had. I wanted sounds silly, a cake stand, a glass cake stand. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I've been visualizing it, looking at it in my mind's eye. And yesterday one showed up and I bought it. So your imagination is like that, isn't it? You know, you can, if you want to manifest something, you conjure up the image of it in your imagination. And then you hold that image. And that then may show up in your reality as a solid object. Or not. You might just imagine it just for the fun of imagining it. So I hope that helps you explain imagination. Imagination, we are projecting the idea of something. We are projecting the image thought form of something. And we see it with our clairvoyance, which is a form of intuition. Do you think I've explained it enough, Corey?
I don't know. That's
We'll
up to everybody else.
So whoever asks the question, let me know if that satisfies
I have a couple
you.
more things. I have a question from Nate, and Nate says, any advice for meditation for beginners? I struggle with focus. My meditation sessions are often unproductive and get derailed by pointless distraction or distracting thoughts that come up. What I've done is I've put a link in here on how to meditate for beginners as well, one of our podcasts and shows that we've done. So that might help out as well.
I think so too. And I'd just say, Nate, so in the book, you're going to have various techniques, starting with grounding and centering. Centering teaches you how to place your consciousness so you become the neutral observer of your thoughts. So it separates you from your thoughts because you're not your thoughts. But so often we are just in our thoughts. So that technique of centering gives you a way of focusing and becoming above your emotions, the neutral observer of your thoughts, separating yourself from all of that. So I believe that that will help you.
Yeah. And just check out that link, Nate. Also, we have, after the break, we have a very colorful comment by Amy.
Great. And I'll just also mention, when you get the book, Nate, there are 5 videos that teach the techniques. If you go to the beginning of the 3rd section of the book, there's a link that will take you to me talking you through the exercises. All right, well, we'll take a break. See you soon. Welcome back, listeners. You are tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey.
That's me.
Today's show is about clairvoyance, talking about clairvoyance, talking about the 6th chakra, and we are continuing on in our series that we've been doing on intuition and chakras in celebration of the book Intuition and Chakras, which we love. So what's our next colorful comment?
Well, do you know why I have a blue brain?
Why you have a blue? Yeah, because it's all
this is my blue brain.
On the radio, if you're listening on the radio, Corey's holding up a blue
squeeze ball
in the shape of a brain. I've just seen something very strange on the carpet underneath my desk. I'm just going to.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So I'll take over as
it's
you
okay.
do that.
I've got it. It's a piece of plastic.
Okay. So Amy says, that's so interesting. During a very long labor, my midwife asked me how I was. I told her I'm yellow, feeling very yellow with some orange. After I wondered if she thought I had lost my mind, she said, oh no, I knew what you were saying. She says, I didn't do it consciously at all.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And it's funny, I've been doing some meditations this weekend about going back into the womb and just clearing some of the stuff that you pick up, sort of going into that space in the womb, which is so just think about this. Actually, this fits in with this today's subject matter. When you're in the womb, you don't have language. You're not having thoughts. You're alive, but you're more in a state of connection with spirit. So being able to go back into that state of being within the womb is exactly the state that Nate was trying to achieve in a way, right? How not to have this monkey mind going on. And so I was doing those meditations, and I had yellow energy coming out of me when I was doing it. So isn't that funny? That's very, very funny. So there must be something about yellow and
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's a color. It's I like yellow, but as far as rooms and stuff like that, I don't like yellow.
No,
not in a room. It makes me feel yucky.
well, in my courses, we learn how to run different vibrations of energy through our system, and sometimes someone, and we'll go through the rainbow, and sometimes someone will be like, I feel really uncomfortable with this color. But that's something to look at. Why do you feel uncomfortable with that color? And what is it that color is stirring up within you? Because if you can clear out that thing that's being stirred up and triggered, maybe you'll be more comfortable with that vibration.
So also I'm putting in the chat, I'm putting in a link to another podcast. You mentioned something which may be unusual for a lot of people, and that's monkey mind. I'm putting a podcast in that explains monkey mind.
Well, the other thing as well is there is a webinar coming up at the end of October called the Awaken Your Intuition webinar. I think that's the name of it. And we go into so many things that we do. We go into the monkey mind and the other things that keep you from, you know, your true spiritual essence. So for anyone who hasn't yet attended that, and actually it's a free training. I just recently converted that. I used to do it as a monthly webinar, and I've converted it into a 3-part training. So the first 2 parts are on video, and then the final part is live with me. And the big theme of that is what blocks your intuition, and the top 7 things. And one of the big ones is monkey mind. Well, I am seeing there's some more questions popping up there. I just saw one flash past from Jess, I think.
I have one from Amy here and from Jess. Jess says, what does seeing green and pink mean? Means you need new glasses. No, just kidding.
or you've got glasses on with that color lens.
By the way, just for everybody's sake out there, our neighbor next door listens to the show, and every time I see him, he says, "You know, Dr. Leslie is so good." He said, "But you're just a comic." So for those of you who don't know, I like bringing in a little bit of the comedial influence into the show, so it's not as dry. Not that Dr. Leslie's dry.
Thanks. So I'll answer Jess's question. So often people, when they're developing their clairvoyance, want a formula. And you can even buy books. You can go into the metaphysical store and someone's written a book that says colors of your aura and what they mean. And then you can go, oh yes, green means freshness and growth. Pink means nurturing and love, and so on and so on and so on. And that's great. But better than that is to really develop your own inner vision and to be able to translate and interpret the colors that you're seeing in the moment that you're seeing them. Because as spirit, we can see so many different tones and shades and brightnesses of colors, and there's not one meaning for a color. It's like, I don't know if any of you ever read cards, but if you do, you probably know that there's a difference between, you've got your book of instructions that says this card always means this, versus you could pull the same card for 10 different people and it would have a different meaning for each person if you allow yourself to read it, the symbolism from the perspective of the energy of that person. So my guidance on seeing color vibrations is to learn how to translate them through your clairvoyance into meaning, rather than learn from some outside source what the meaning is. But I gave you a few clues, like sometimes maybe a bright green might be to do with growth, maybe, you know, but what if it's a dark forest green? It might mean something else. Sometimes maybe a pink is to do with nurturing. But I would say don't put this as a list in your mind. This means this equals this and that equals that, because then you're going into the intellect and you're not really in your intuition anymore.
So Amy says, crazy, wouldn't have put womb and yellow together.
No, neither would I. I know, I was like, what's this strange yellow coming out of me? That was this morning. I had to, I don't know why, I got up and I needed to just lie on the sofa, which I never do. I'm always busy doing things. But this morning, for the first time in years, I was just like, oh, I just need to lie on the sofa and imagine I'm in the womb with this yellow energy coming out.
Mary Beth says, I'm fixing a hole in a yellow sweater as you speak. LOL. Good stuff.
All right. Is there no more questions? Shall I?
Well, I'm not as of now. Jess says, okay, brilliant. Love you. Thanks. Thank
Oh, I
you.
love you too.
Yeah. I
All
also
right.
got in trouble with Amy for saying you were dry.
Thank you, Amy.
Trust me, I know she's not dry in that sense but I just have to put a little comedic in there for myself so that I can feel good about myself.
And
There. Ha.
and you know, it is true that amusement raises the vibration. And if you want to be able to see clairvoyantly or use any of your other intuitive abilities, you want to be and need to be in a high vibration. So anything that you can do to get that vibration up is fantastic.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
amusement's a super high vibration and instantly moves you up.
And we have count them, two posts on amusement.
Do we?
Yeah, we do.
That's good.
And one on Donald Trump.
Do we?
Yeah, as a spiritual leader.
That was when he got elected, wasn't it? And it
Yeah,
was
I think we just lost all our listeners.
yeah. Um, all right. So we've talked about clairvoyance, the ability to see clearly. The ability includes seeing non-physical beings like spirit guides, angels, ascended masters, saints, deceased loved ones, ghosts, energy vibrations, auras, chakras. We didn't mention chakras yet. You can see chakras with your clairvoyance, pictures and symbols. Remote viewing is a specific type of clairvoyance where the viewer seeks impressions about a distant and unseen person, object, or target in real time, or to see a past event and how it unfolded. Yeah, and your clairvoyance, you can see the past, present, and future, or some distant location. Let's see, what else can we say here? Oh, just here's some common experiences people have. And a lot of my students say this. I'm teaching a clairvoyance class at the moment, and one of my students has this all the time. Faces coming and going, just faces, not even people that you know, just these faces appearing. And let's see, colors, just colors behind. And this, she has this too, colors, just, you close your eyes and you see colors, clouds of colors moving around. That's also a common sign that it's waking up. And or waking visions of deceased loved ones or your guides. Easily visualizing a relaxing scene during meditation. Remembering texts that you've read visually. A bit like a photographic memory. Seeing your memories in your mind's eye. So all of that is examples of your clairvoyance. And we've talked about it already, but the main block is the intellect, which overlays doubt. So whenever you are having an intuitive insight, it's instant. And the trick is to take what first pops in. But usually, or often, what will happen is you will get an intuitive insight, and then the intellect will start going, that's my imagination, that's not real, did I make that up? Or whatever else it wants to say to bring that into doubt. And it just slows down the flow of intuitive information, causes people to ignore their intuition entirely. But by developing your clairvoyance, you can see clearly about yourself and those around you and the situations you are in. You can take an intuitive perspective rather than a physical perspective. You can see clearly regardless of the ego's projections. And it gives you neutrality to let go of your limits. It can help you get clear about how someone else's beliefs are influencing you, as well as being neutral and non-judgmental about what you see. And then it says, electromagnetic energy waves are visible to a clairvoyant as color vibrations. The human energy field or aura is seen as color. Color has meaning and can be translated into language. Experiences, beliefs, and attitudes are also recorded in the energy field, and these units of structured energy are visible to a clairvoyant as symbols, pictures, and formulas and vignettes. They contain much information that can be understood and translated. So, listeners, you're tuning into Unlocking Your Truth. We're talking about clairvoyance. It is the time in the show where we're open to take any and all questions from the people in the chat room. If you're listening on the radio and you want to be able to ask us questions live, then join the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group or check out my YouTube channel.
We have about 2.5 minutes left, so if you want to ask a question, ask now.
And we'll be talking about the sixth chakra for the next 2 weeks. So we're going to talk more about abstract intuition next time, which is the ability to translate formulae and symbolic information. So for example, let's just tell you the difference between that. So as spirit, I said we communicate through energy, images, but also through mathematical formulae. So if you think about the vision of an apple, if somebody says the word apple, it's got a pretty two-dimensional meaning. If you are shown the symbol of an apple, then that has more information, especially as if the apple was bitten down to the core, bright red, juicy, shiny apple being held by a witch, a maggot coming out, you know, different meanings depending on the apple and the way it looks. It's also possible to have a mathematical formulae that represents the apple. It's another form of spiritual communication.
I have one more question. I think that'll take us to the end of the show, and it's from Jess. He says, is shamanic journeying clairvoyance?
Part of your experience when you do a shamanic journey can involve your clairvoyance. Shamanic journeying is often out-of-body experience, out-of-body travel, right? So it's often that you are moving outside of the body into the spirit realm in your astral body. There's different types of shamanic journey. You know, you could be traveling in an animal totem, going into the lower world or the upper world. And so but if you're seeing visions, then it's your clairvoyance, but you are also very much out of the body, usually in a shamanic journey.
Well, another quick question from Nate, and is clairvision another word for what you're talking about, or is it something else?
It would be the same. Clairvoyance is French, and clairvision is half French and half English. But they both just mean clear seeing, right?
Okay. Yeah. And that should take us to the end of the show.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You've been listening to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey.
Thank you all. We'll see you on Tuesday for the next show.
7
Tuesday.
Time.
Thank you. If the internet's working.
Which it will be.
Sure. Take care, everyone.
Bye.